All right, welcome everybody. So we've got breaking news. Uber just announced that they are partnering with Cruise for Robotaxi. So they've just sent out this press release. Uber and Cruise are now going to partner together. Uber and Cruise, two companies revolutionizing transportation. Today, it's a multi-year strategic partnership. They're going to bring Cruise's autonomous vehicles to Uber's platform. They plan to launch the partnership next year. Dedicated number of Chevy Bolt-based autonomous vehicles. Once launched, when an Uber rider requests a qualifying ride on the Uber app, they may be presented with the option to have that trip fulfilled by a Cruise autonomous vehicle. So Mark Whitten, the CEO of Cruise, they've been going through a lot of turmoil. CEOs have been replaced. They had to abandon, stop services for a while because of an accident. Says, we're on a mission to leverage driverless technology to create safer streets, redefine urban life. We're excited to partner with Uber to bring the benefits of safe, reliable, autonomous driving to even more people, unlocking a new era of urban mobility. So Dara Khosrowshahi, the Uber CEO, says it's the largest mobility and delivery platform. We believe Uber can play an important role helping to safely and reliably introduce autonomous technology to consumers in cities around the world. They're going to launch next year. And this comes right when the Uber CEO was just saying recently that there's a potentially big problem with Elon Musk's Robotaxi idea. We'll talk about that shortly. What do you think about all this, Hans?
Well, I have to say I feel a little bit torn between, two different feelings and emotions. One of them is I am really glad that we have players that are helping to push us forward towards this future of autonomous ride hailing robotaxis. So it's great to see, milestones like Waymo this week posted that they're now having like 100,000 paid rides every week. I think that those are incredibly important milestones to make this a technology that is affordable and accessible to people all over the world. If you fast forward by 10 years, I think it's very likely that we live in a world where a lot more people have access to high quality, low cost transportation, and that is a force that is incredibly good for the disadvantaged among us, disproportionately. Like, it's way better for them. It doesn't matter if you are a millionaire and you can have yourself, potentially helicoptered from place to place in San Francisco or LA or these places to avoid dealing with traffic. Like, this technology is not that important for you specifically. But if you're the type of person that walks or rides a bicycle or uses public transport regularly, then man, wouldn't it be great if for 50 cents or $1, you get
Yeah.
from wherever the heck it is to wherever you need to go, and you can do whatever you want in the process? I think that's the type of future that we're going to live in.
Let's
So
talk
that's
about
one set of
yeah.
emotions. Let me go back to the other
Okay.
set of emotions.
Yeah.
This strikes me as the type of partnership that GM did with a little company called Nikola back a little
Mm-hmm.
while. You
Yeah.
may remember these
Mm-hmm.
companies that, I mean, given all the controversy that Cruise has had, like, I am rooting for them to hopefully put their issues and their safety issues to bed, but I just have skepticism around their ability to deliver functional technology. And for Uber to make a big, bold move to partner with them at this point in time does not look good. Just like it did not look good for GM to be making partnerships with Nikola back when they were under all the controversy that they had. And then we saw how that played out. I think this is a signal that Uber, at least they recognize that this is a
Yeah.
very important set of technology that they need to have a presence in. I don't, man, the fact that they couldn't get this, if you're going to do it with somebody, you need to do this with
Should have been
Waymo.
Waymo.
If
Yeah.
it's not Tesla, it needs to be Waymo. So the fact that it's Cruise scares me, and it signals not great strategic decision making on the part of either one of these companies, in my opinion.
Exactly. So this is the news just breaking just a few minutes ago. Uber and General Motors robotaxi unit Cruise, they've announced that they're going to have a multi-year partnership. They're going to deploy autonomous vehicles on an Uber platform. They're going to begin this partnership next year. It says a dedicated number, so they didn't specify how many. It's just a test. Chevy Bolt autonomous vehicles. And then Uber riders can request a ride and they can choose to fulfill it with Cruise if they wanted to. Obviously, Cruise is already in several cities. I think they had to shut things down a little bit. But the reason I'm showing this video is because just, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, BYD or Uber announced a partnership with BYD, but this was just a transaction. Uber said, I'll buy BYD's cars. BYD said, I'll let your drivers buy it. That's great. But it's outside of the United States. Tesla already has a partnership with Uber, allowing Uber's drivers to buy Tesla cars at reduced financing rates, good incentives. So this was just a transaction. When they said this, they had said at that moment that in the future, they might do autonomous driving with BYD. So when you now hear that they're going to do this partnership with Cruise for autonomous driving, like you say, it does sound like a little bit of desperation. Choosing Cruise, you kind of hinted at it a little bit. Can you tell us the history of Cruise and what their troubles have been recently?
Well, yeah, so they had an incident where they were in a accident with a pedestrian. It was kind of a secondary accident. That pedestrian had been hit by another car first and then was struck by the Cruise self-driving vehicle. I believe it drug the person for a short distance, but also,
Wow.
contributed additional injuries. And then what really got difficult for Cruise was the subsequent investigation into that incident, which then revealed a whole host of factors that basically led regulators to decide, hey, Cruise just does not have a safety first culture, and that there's lots of shortcuts that are being taken here. And the reality inside the company does not match the statements that are being made outside the company. And that caused a lot of heads to roll. So, many people lost their jobs. There is
Yeah.
this effort now to basically just go in, clean house, and basically restart the effort from the ground up inside of Cruise. Um, Perhaps the new CEO is able to execute on that, but at this point in time, it seems hard uh, to have confidence one way or the other what the future of this technology will be. The one thing I would say about Uber is if they are doing these deals and they're completely non-exclusive, if Uber has the ability to do this deal with Cruise and then can on the back of this do a subsequent deal with Waymo also, and subsequently any other number of networks, then perhaps this is something that makes sense on Uber's part. Like if they can be in a non-exclusive, non-binding relationship with anyone and everyone who is offering these robotaxi services, then I would say that is something that makes sense for them, that they should try and see, basically we don't know, we're technology platform agnostic. We don't know which one of these forms is going to win. We just want whatever it is to be on our platform when it wins. And that would be something that would make at least some modicum of sense.
Yeah, it's a weird choice because Cruise, like I said, just went through massive crisis. Basically, they got rid of their CEO, brought in this new guy. They're just now restarting, re-implementing it. And then during that investigation, they found out that Cruise actually had teleoperators basically, managing the cars just in case. So they're nowhere near, even moving forward. They're just restarting. The other thing that happened recently as well is Uber CEO was being interviewed, and he said that he's warning Elon that it's a lot harder to do the Robotaxi rides than he thinks. He talked about what was it now that what was his points? Do you remember what his points were? Yeah. So number one, he said that he doesn't think that there's going to be enough drivers because he's going to have to convince these Tesla owners to submit their cars in, and he thought that there's going to be peak crisis where during the peak times that there's needed, the Tesla owners won't do that, and he doubts that they'll have enough vehicles in demand. What's your thoughts about what he said about those things?
Well, there's definitely going to be some, supply and demand elements that are difficult problems to solve. One of the great things that Tesla has in order to solve those problems is that the markets where those things are really important, they can definitely manufacture more vehicles for those locations, and it doesn't take that long to saturate a single market. And I think this is something that Tesla will need to end up tackling market by market. They need to build out in Austin or LA or San Francisco or Phoenix, like whatever their first city is, they need to fully dial in that entire market first. And then once they do that, move on to whatever the next one is. And then potentially you can scale multiple cities at the same time. So they need to get that go-to-market strategy in a specific local market nailed down. I agree with that. What is the split between Tesla-owned vehicles and customer-provided vehicles? Who knows? One of the things that I think the Uber CEO is discounting is if this service itself is able to be as profitable as we expect it to be, there will be plenty of market incentive for fleet
Yeah.
buyers to come in, and whether it's Tesla owned or not, fleet buyers can come in and they can buy up used Teslas in a market, and they can saturate that market specifically for those peak times, because those will be the peak opportunities to earn money. And they would be willing to pay individual users who are not necessarily willing to say, hey, it's okay for you to use my Tesla right here at this time of the day, more than that person values their car for at that point. Like, if you could sell your car for 2 or 3 or 4 times what it costs you to buy it new while it's several years used, would you not take that deal? I think a lot of people will, and I think there will be people who are willing to pay that to then take that car and go use it as a robotaxi. And that is, in my mind, just a supply and demand market inevitability.
Yeah. Here's the other news that just came out today, too. GM's Cruise recalls nearly 1,200 robotaxis to close the U.S. probe. This literally just happened at the same time as we're talking about here. So they agreed to recall 1,200 because of this hard-breaking issues that they were forced to do, following a probe into the safety of the autonomous driving systems. You were talking about that. So I mean, 1,200 is not that big of a deal, but it started in December 2022 after reports of 2 injuries and 3 rear-end crashes. I mean, 1,200, they'll have to bring it back. So not that big of a deal, but there you go. That's another situation. So like, it's weird that they are partnering with this company at this time, but they don't really have a choice, do they? I mean, probably Waymo said no for some reason. We'll talk about that. But Cruise is struggling. They'll want to have a partnership, right? It redefines Cruise again to be, because they were like just out of the game at this point, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're Waymo, do you do a deal with Cruise? I understand, or with Uber. I understand why Uber would want Waymo on their service. I'm not sure if I'm Waymo, whether I want to be on Uber's service versus trying to build my own ecosystem. Especially at the stage where they're at, where, I think that their demand is far greater than the supply of vehicles they have. So they're not looking for new riders. They already have an excess amount of riders. So they don't need a new marketplace to enter. And so the fact that Cruise doesn't have that and they need to work with Uber tells you that they have more cars than customers. And that's not a good place to be either for someone who has as few cars as Cruise has. That means that service is bad.
Exactly. Okay, so let's just recap what's happening right now. So we just had news right now that Uber and Cruise have partnered together just a few minutes ago. Multi-year partnership, autonomous vehicles on the Uber platform. It's a dedicated number. They don't say how many. Chevy Bolt-based autonomous vehicles. You can basically request it out of the Uber app, and it'll start next year. And so do you think that this now automatically removes any talk about Tesla partnering with Uber? So many of us Tesla retailers, not me, so many others kept saying that they need to partner with Uber, Tesla. I don't think it needs to happen. But does that remove that possibility at all?
I don't know that it removes it. I don't know that it makes it any more or less likely than it was. I think it's definitely not likely. I've always advocated for that potentially being a good thing long term, just to help spread the robotaxi earnings pie around and keep it from being too much of a monopoly profits political target. But that's the only reason to partner with Uber, in my personal opinion. There are more sophisticated arguments on why you would do it that someone like a Brad Gerstner, who is an investor in Uber might make. But But on the flip side, I can definitely see lots of arguments for why that should not happen. And yeah, like I don't think that Uber plus Cruise really changes any of those arguments in substance.
Yeah, I didn't have time to grab the data, but Uber CEO has been selling shares quite regularly. Just most recently, a few days ago, 10% of his shares. So you can watch that happening. But at the same time, this partnership now puts Robotaxi, it's just another thing, right? Puts Robotaxi like it's real. If you're an investor, you're an institutional big whale investor, and you don't believe Robotaxi is happening, but you're seeing all these activities happening in China. Now you got Uber and Cruise. You got Waymo coming on and expanding their services. Now you got Tesla going to do the 1010 Robotaxi event. It's all good news for Tesla, and I think good news for Tesla investors at the end of the day. So thank you very much, Hans. We got to go. There's a short one today. Thank you, everybody. But this is the big news that came out today. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.